You're listening to the Southampton Delivery Podcast, a podcast dedicated to the Southampton Football Club and all of the SFC fans.
If you want to have guarantees, you have to buy a washing machine.
Fonte with a scooping header.
We don't lose a match, either we win or we learn. And today we learned.
Отдача, Остин! Все-таки забил!
It's infield to Mane, 25 yards out. Lovely ball for Bella. Onside, 1-0! Buffon shot! Oh my word!
Unbelievable. He ran around the pitch like Bambi on ice. It was very, very embarrassing to watch.
And now, your host, Matt Markstone.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the Southampton Delivery Podcast, a podcast and newsletter dedicated to the Southampton Football Club and all of the SFC fans, and available right here on southamptondelivery.com. My name is Matt Markstone. I am the host of the show, and no matter where you are, no matter how you may be listening, whether this is your first time or you've been here before, thanks for making the show part of your day. I hope you enjoy it, and I hope that you were enjoying what was a peaceful kind of start to the summer. We all knew business was going to get done. We knew Saints were going to make some moves in the transfer window. It just seemed to not quite be happening yet. And then after we recorded the last show, everything kind of went off between Salisu being announced, Kyle Walker-Peters coming in, Højbjerg going out. That was all fine. We knew all those things were coming. We covered it in the newsletter. We covered it in previous podcasts. The news just hadn't broken yet. And then after I recorded this week's episode with the Southampton Women's Football Club, everything was going splendidly. And then out of nowhere, this happened. And in seemingly no time, the skies that were filled with sunshine, that were warming our bodies and the earth just a few hours before, turned to thunder and rain and lightning strikes and fires. And reports that LD Sport, our main shirt sponsor, is going bankrupt, is going to pull out and cost the club £15 million over the next 2 years unless Saints can find a replacement. That surfaced. And if that wasn't bad enough, I woke up on Monday morning to find that we had lost someone else to United. Carl Anker leaving Southampton, going to cover Manchester United for The Athletic. Good for him. I'm going to miss Carl. He's going to be replaced by Dan Sheldon from The Echo. That's a brilliant signing by The Athletic. But once again, Southampton loses somebody we love. They go to one of the quote-unquote big teams, and I just hope it works out better for him than it did for Morgan Schneiderlin. I'm sure that it will. Not because Morgan wasn't fit, not because he wasn't available to make it happen, but I think Carl's just going to make it work because that's what Carl does. And I'm going to miss him. I think I speak for a lot of people when I say that. But it's going to be okay. And I don't know that it's going to be okay just because Dan's going to do a great job, which he will. But it's going to be okay because I'm going to do this now. And that makes everything just that much better. And if you want to get one of these, depending on what time of day it is, I don't know if you're going to work or not, but it's evening as I record this, and it's been a long day. It's my first day back at school. So we're just going to sit here and do this because this show was done until all of this other stuff happened. And so now we're sitting here re-recording this, and that's fine. Then we're going to pause 1 second for a hydration break. I'm drinking a German beer in honor of Bayern scoring 8 against Barcelona. Just pissed they couldn't score 9 because that would have made the weekend even better. But instead, we'll just leave it there. So anyway, on this week's episode, we're not going to talk about any of the stuff that has happened because we're not going to. Because it's done. It's gone. I'm going to cry over Carl leaving, and that'll be fine. But this week on the show, we have 2 members of the Southampton Women's Football Club joining the show. We're going to talk with assistant first team coach Lee Hurrell, and one of the club's newest signings, an attacking midfielder, Jodie Burchell. We're going to talk about the season that was last year. We're going to talk about the way the season ended, prospects for this season. We'll talk a little bit about Jodie's career, having played on 3 continents in very different leagues and kind of what that's all meant to her. But I'm very excited to have this conversation. I've been looking forward to it. for some time. And special thanks, of course, to Haley Newman, who is the club media officer, who does so much for the club. They have a new website up that makes it way easier to find results and future matches and everything else. And it's going to play a big role because they can't have anybody in the stadium just yet. So if you are a fan of the Southampton Women's Football Club, that new website will be your guide to kind of staying up with what's going on with the team as they move into a new home field for this season. And they look for promotion once again. So special thanks to both Lee and Jodie and Haley for making this happen. If you are a small business owner or a local business owner, you can have a big local business, that'd be great too. But the Southampton Women's Football Club is always looking for sponsorships. Players need sponsorships. The club needs sponsorships. So if you are interested and able to do that, the whole club would appreciate it, whether it's an individual player or the club as a whole. Everybody will be appreciative if you are able to help them out. The links to get in contact with the club secretary are in the show notes, so you can go ahead and get in contact with them. They would love that. I would love that. And I think you would too. And I think that does it. That's enough rambling. I think I'm in a better mood now because this episode is one that I really enjoyed. So thanks for listening, and I'll talk to you on the other side. So it's my pleasure to welcome back Lee Hurrell. Said that right?
Yep.
All right. And Jodie Burchell. Jodie, this is your first time on the show, but Lee, you've been here before. Both are associated with the Southampton Women's Football Club. Lee is a first-team coach, and Jodie, you are one of the newest signings. But welcome to the show.
Yeah, nice to be here.
Yeah, nice to be here. Thank you.
Oh, thank you both very much. Lee, you've been here before, but it's been a little while. What's new with you since the last time we spoke?
Yeah, I think we were just about to play our first pre-season game when you had me and Smithy on last time. That feels like an age ago now as well, even though it was only just over a year. Just a weird season of football. Quite anticlimactic as well with the league just getting cancelled. Yeah,
I think last time you guys were sitting, maybe it was after a training session or something, that you guys were sitting in opposite cars. I think you could see each other, and you were talking to me both. It was great, but it was a long time ago, and a lot has happened since then. A weird season, a shortened season, and now kind of back at it. And I guess in the heat of the summer for you guys. Although I think you had a storm come through, I'm not sure.
It's good. Temperatures come down a little bit, which is quite good ahead of the first friendly tomorrow. We didn't want to be playing that in ridiculous heat. Yeah. And just briefly, how do you feel about going into that tomorrow? Really good. Everyone's excited to get going. We've been prepping for sort of a few weeks now. Started off with sort of individual training sessions and small groups because of the COVID restrictions. We've been doing like full team training for probably the last 3 weeks now, since that was given the green light. So I think everyone's just looking to get into it. Given that our last actual game was mid-March, I think. Everyone's really raring to go again.
Absolutely. And Jodie, you've recently joined the team, but you've had quite a long history of football in, I think, several continents and different teams. So, if you don't mind, can I ask you a little bit about that?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. So I know you recently moved back to the UK, but you were born there, right? And you started playing at a fairly young age.
Yeah. So I was born in Portsmouth. And loved football from day one. I still remember when I was like 6 years old and I was just on the sofa with my dad and I was just like this chunky kid and I was like, Dad, can I play football? And then from that day I've just played football since. But just started playing with like boys. And then I had a trial for Chelsea when I was, I think, 10 years old. And then just started playing from that sort of level from that point really.
And then so you started playing for Chelsea, and then at some point, I won't ask who your dad supports because you told me you were born, so I won't get into that. But but at some point you moved to Australia, and I mean, as a kid, no matter what age, whether you're 10 or 15 or whatever, that's a big change. What was the biggest adjustment for you going to play football down in Australia from playing in Chelsea and in England?
I think what the hardest thing was I was really settled. I loved playing at Chelsea. Like, it was a really good standard. and like I was developing. And then when I was 12, my parents just told me that I was moving to Australia, and to be honest, at the time I was a bit like, I don't really want to go.
Yeah.
And then obviously went to Australia, and it was a completely different culture. I think it was it's a different game to what, like, how English players play. And so yeah, it was just a lot of a culture change, and had to try and adjust really.
Yeah. Well, and weather's a lot different too, right?
Oh yeah, playing in the heat. It's hard because I hate playing in the heat. So yeah.
Well, so I guess you moved down there, and then from there you actually wind up moving over to the United States for college. You went to college in Maryland, and I mean, I guess if you talk about heat, that's also there, right? That's a very muggy kind of. I have family that lives further south than where you were in Maryland, but I know all about those summers. So I guess can you kind of, you mentioned there was a difference in the style of play between Australia and the UK. Was there also a difference between what you had experienced in Australia and the UK, and then what you ran into when you came to the US college game?
Yeah, I think that's what I love. Like, I've lived in 3 different countries, and I've experienced football in each country. So you've got to try and adjust to the way that the Americans play or the way that Australians play. Like, for example, in America, it's very fitness orientated. Like, strength and aggression is quite big, but it's quite big in England as well. But in Australia, it's not as big, like strength and aggression. So, yeah, it's interesting.
And I guess, how did you find playing in the college system with the travel and, like you said, the kind of different even substitution rules in terms of how things can go? Was it a difficult adjustment for you to make? And then did you also feel like that maybe, do you think it played into your strength, or did it require you to kind of change your approach to things?
I must admit, I did struggle. I think because I was 18 when I moved, so I left all my family, so I was there by myself, and I struggled with that part of it, as well as you're doing a lot. But I love the fact that we train twice a day and then played games twice a week. And it was a full-on, it's quite professional. You've got a nutritionist, you've got, as you would know, as being a teacher, you know what the universities are like over there. So from that aspect, it was really cool, and getting to travel with them around different places in America and things like that. So yeah, it was a cool experience. But yeah, I just don't think it was really for me, to be fair.
Okay. All right. And then I guess, how did you wind up back in England playing for Southampton? Has your family moved back to England, or did you just choose to go back there instead of going back to Australia after school was done?
Well, I didn't actually finish school in America because I wasn't that happy there. So I just made a decision to go back to Australia. So I went back to Australia for a bit, played back at my old team, and then I decided I want to move back to England by myself. So I just made the decision and just done it. So yeah, now I'm here.
And are you living in a PO postcode again?
Yeah.
Dang it. It's all right. But now you're here, and I guess this is where we'll bring Lee in. Lee, when you have a player that's kind of been Australia or for Chelsea, and then down in Australia, and then over in America, when that player comes back into the Southampton Women's FC kind of catchment area, how do you go about making them show up for you instead of somebody else? And you don't have to give away secrets, but what's the kind of general practice, I guess?
I'm not actually too sure, because it was Smithy who sort of orchestrated it all. I remember sort of before, obviously, football got cancelled last season. He told me he had a player coming down to training who'd just come back from Australia in America. So we saw Jodie in a training session instantly. Sort of all the coaches agreed, we need to get her signed.
Jodie, is it difficult to walk into a full team training when you're not necessarily part of the team just yet and trialing, or are you kind of used to that stuff at this point?
Yeah, it's really nerve-wracking because I lack a lot of confidence, but a lot of people tell me I don't seem like I do, but I do. And so when you're going into a new environment that you don't know anyone or whatever, it is nerve-wracking, but I just think you've got to do it, don't you?
Yeah. Well, it's, when everybody understands all the kind of chemistry and who gets the ball when and where people like the ball and how they want it delivered to them and all that other stuff, and then you don't understand any of that, it's even the guys I play with, they get very frustrated when somebody new comes out. It's like, dude, they don't even know who you are. Like, be quiet. But that's okay. So can I just ask you one more time? I mean, I know you said you didn't have a great experience, or not that you didn't have a great experience, but you didn't really enjoy it, or you weren't that happy in the United States. But
yeah,
I would say what was the hardest part about it? Was it just being away from your family, or was it on the pitch stuff that you found, I guess, more difficult? And I'm asking that more for the people who maybe listening to this as fans of the Southampton Women's Football Club, or somebody who may have aspirations. And I know Southampton, the Women's Football Club, just sent another player back over to the United States to play down at Troy. So there are other people who may be listening who maybe could take this into consideration.
Well, I just think I miss, like, not having family around me was very hard, and I think it just was very overwhelming. You're going 100 miles an hour 24/7, and for some people that might be you might be in your element, but for me, I think I was lacking confidence on the field, and I just felt like because football's my life, and so when it wasn't going amazing, I thought, well, it's just hard. Like I don't know, just it depends the type of person you are. To be honest, I need people around me that. Like family, for example, but other people might not need that. So it just depends what you're like how you adjust to it, really.
Yeah, absolutely. It's definitely a difficult transition. We see that even with professional players who move places and then can't or don't adjust well and don't like it and don't want to wind up moving because of it. And I think that's just part of it.
Yeah, definitely.
At least you're back out of that humid, wet kind of summer that I still
remember going out of the plane, and I stepped out and I was like, oh my god, this is hotter than Australia. And
a lot of artificial pitches too as well, right? Where you play.
Yeah, just very humid, isn't it?
Yeah, it's for some, we don't normally have that humid weather here, but we have had it the past couple of days, and we went to go like run, and I just like looked at the guy I was running with. I was like, go ahead, I'm gonna stop. Anyway. Lee, so you mentioned last season, obviously we know it all kind of ended abruptly, but the team was sitting second in the table. You were having a good season, and it was one of those things like what obviously like safety and public health and everything else is much more important than football. But at the same time, what did it feel like to kind of have your season kind of stopped and kind of taken away from you when you were once again challenging at the top of the table and having a good season?
Yeah, it was just frustrating because obviously, a lot of work goes in off the pitch as well as on the pitch. So for the staff and the players, it was really frustrating because we felt like we were working towards something, and then for them to just go, shut it down, was a bit strange because a lot of other leagues decided to do a points per game basis, or they got the games paid eventually. So. It was just frustration more than anything that it was all felt like it was a little bit for nothing. But I think we'll see the benefits this season because obviously the players got used to how we wanted them to play, got used to how me and Smithy are kind of thing. So there's stuff we can take into this season. It was just strange to have it cut short.
Yeah, well, and
immediately kind of thing.
And I know you guys do some scouting of other teams, and I imagine that in the off season, those teams there's probably a quite heavy changeover in a lot of those teams. So now the scouting has to kind of start all over again.
Yeah, definitely. A lot of teams in our league have signed players from higher levels as well. So I think the league will potentially be more competitive than it was last year, which is good because it sort of gives us a bit of a motivation to raise our levels as well.
Yes, yeah. And I guess looking at it, and obviously you guys haven't played any games yet, and I'm sure it will change once people start playing. But are you looking at any other teams in particular as being potential challenges? And I would assume that your expectation is to challenge for once again promotion and kind of be towards the top of the table.
Yeah, we definitely want to be up there challenging in the mix again. It's definitely our aim. Obviously, the Southampton SC team have got a budget that's far beyond anyone else in our league and far beyond most clubs in the league above. So they'll probably be the favourites again. But there's a few clubs like there's a team called Buckland who are sort of down in the southwest, who they signed a couple of really good players from Plymouth. So they'll be strong this year, I think. Exeter are a good team, Cheshire are a good team. Who else is there as well? Cheltenham as well, are the other team that has a lot of good young players there. So I think that will be the main sort of cluster of top teams. But the thing is, at this level, you never know. Some team could have been quietly recruiting and come out of nowhere. So it's always interesting.
Yeah, and Jodie, Lee mentioned that you had some sort of Smithy knew you from somehow, and how did that happen in terms of when you were back? Did you start reaching out to people to come into this team, or were you looking for places to play, or did somebody come to you and kind of say, hey, why don't you train for us? And did you train for other teams as well?
So before I came back, I contacted a few teams over here, and the Oxford coach got in contact with me, and I was having a chat with him, and he was really nice and helpful in that. But because Oxford's quite a way away from where I live, and when I came back, I didn't have a car, I didn't have much, I couldn't get anywhere. And Liam, I think his name is, he said he knows the Southampton coach. So he said he put me in contact with Smithy, and it just went from there. And just Smithy was really helpful, done everything to help me out. And I had a training session and just went from there, really, and just loved it. As soon as I went there.
I guess let's talk a little bit about coming back to training and things like that. Lee, you mentioned that you had to follow some government protocols, but what were you doing during the off season in terms of keeping in touch with people? Because I'm quite confident that it wasn't just okay, season's over, we'll see you in July or whatever, and then no contact between the team. How did you kind of go about managing the off season and keeping people informed as to what you needed them to do and what you wanted them to do and that stuff to kind of build towards this season?
There was quite a bit of stuff over Zoom. Obviously, like the rest of the world, we discovered the benefits of Zoom. So players were there was social catch-ups and quizzes and things just to keep everyone sort of interacting. And then there was some people needing fitness sessions and stuff, so the players could sort of do some sort of exercise to keep in there. And like I say, once sort of the individual and group sessions were given the green light, those started up. And then, like I say, progressed from there to back into the full team training environment, which is, it's good to be back at it.
Yeah, so, I mean, full team training now, do you have to wear face coverings and stuff while you're doing training, or are you guys allowed to kind of actually train?
No, we can actually train, but the equipment needs to be disinfected. People try not to touch the footballs with their hands at all, between sessions, picking things up at all. It's we'll try and limit the amount of people that are touching the same things. Sort of disinfecting equipment and stuff. The players will have individual sets of bibs or pinnies, I think you guys call them in the States a lot. They have individual ones of those because they're not allowed to swap them at all or anything. So they have to have their own individual ones of them, which they bring to training and things. So we've had to make some adjustments, but it's obviously it's all worth doing to get back into that sort of proper environment again.
Yeah, absolutely. You mentioned people trying not to touch the football. I was going to say that's me every time I play. I'm just like, don't give it to me. But that sounds good. Jodie, has it been a difficult kind of adjustment coming back to training and in this environment, or is it just been like you're just happy to be out there playing football? So, you'll put up with the not swapping bibs and not picking up cones. And that's probably actually a nice thing for a lot of players, is not having to worry about going to collect the cones if you lose a training game.
Yeah. It is a bit weird, like with all the restrictions and stuff, but to be honest, I'm just so happy to be playing again and like having that excitement when you're on the field and around your team and stuff. Like, it's just brilliant. So just looking at the positives with it, really.
Yeah. Well, that's a good outlook. A lot of people won't do that, and that makes life suck. So, yeah, and I assume, just reading through, I read through the signing announcement and things like that. You definitely play further forward. Do you play on the wing, or you play through the middle, or what's your preferred position?
Well, my preferred position is attacking midfield, but also as a central striker. I'm more of a central player, to be fair. Like, I'm not a bit lost out wide.
Okay, and so I guess. And I guess for Southampton Women's, is that where you're playing? You're playing through the middle for the most part?
Yeah, I think so.
Maybe I should ask Lee.
Lee, am I?
I think for the most part, that's where we'll look to use Jodie. But who knows? It depends on
the game.
Formation we could be playing on any given week, and who the opponents are and everything. So, but we know about Jodie's strengths and what she's good at. So it's just trying to find out where within the structure of the team we can use her to maximize those strengths.
And Lee, I will ask you. You did lose a couple of players over the summer. You had people kind of move on, and I know that other signings will be announced later, and we won't get into those. But I would say is when Jodie's coming in, is she filling a hole left by somebody else, or is there going to be movement around that, or kind of I guess what did you guys have players move on, but Are you lacking in those areas still, or are you kind of, were you able to fill those gaps, I guess, through the off season?
Yeah, for the most part. Jodie's more of an addition to what we already had, because we were going to sign her last season, had the season not finished early. So she was more of an addition to on top of what we already had in the squad. But with some of the other players, like obviously Erin Bloomfield, the centre forward, has gone out to Troy. So we just announced the signing of Meg Vella from Bournemouth. So she's a sort of a straight swap in there as a number 9 kind of thing, as a centre forward. We lost Charlie Taylor, one of our centre midfielders. So there'll be a replacement for her that's coming in, or has come in. That'll be announced. And Rose Kite, the goalkeeper, she went up to join Oxford in the league above. And we signed Ellie Parker from Maidenhead in our league. So we haven't had that much turnover, which is good because it allows for some continuity. But the players that have left, I think we've got some really good people in the door who can step into those roles, which is brilliant, because we want to have a competitive squad. It's not the sort of squad where someone could just name our first 11 every week kind of thing. There's real competition for places. There's good coverage across all the positions, which is something that we've looked to do sort of intentionally, and versatile players that can play sort of a couple of positions each as well.
Yeah. Well, and on that note, I guess that is an advantage for you because they can't prep for a specific starting 11, but there's also kind of difficult for you because it's, you may have somebody who just goes through a bad week of training and you're like, can we pick them? Or if somebody else steps up, we'll be positive. Somebody else has a really good week of training, and then can we put them in there? So does that, is that's good? That's a good problem to have for you and the rest of the coaching staff, is to kind of have a really strong competition for places, even though, some players may just wish they were the absolute best person and they knew they're going to get picked every week.
Yeah, it's a good problem to have. It's definitely a problem. It can be a little bit stressful because you're obviously trying to manage people's emotions and sort of mental well-being, along with all the football side of things as well. So it's hard to keep everyone happy, but I'd rather have that challenge than just players who know that they can just turn up and they'll be in the team each week.
Yeah.
Because I think that sort of fosters complacency and If you've got a player who you're trying to sign and they say like, I won't sign unless you guarantee I'll play every week, that's the wrong mentality for me. Everything needs to be earned.
Yeah. I just remember back to when I was coaching baseball, and we're all the way in Hawaii, which is not close to me. And we had a kid go, and the manager just refused to play him. He didn't play him a single inning. And we were like, his whole family's in Hawaii to watch him play, and he doesn't play a single inning. And I'm just like, this is not going to go well. Like, I don't want to be in the dugout when Dad comes down here, because it's going to be real rough. So hopefully you don't have parents getting on you from the stands anymore. But I'm sure it does happen at some point.
Yeah, I think players who want to play at this level need to be able to deal with that as well. Obviously, we'll try and help people deal with it the best we can, the best they can. But I think if you want to aspire to play at a high level, you need to be of that mentality that you earn the shirt every week with your training sessions and with your games.
Yeah, absolutely. There are some changes coming with the team this season, and the new ground is one of them. You've moved home grounds, and I was looking on a map. Can you tell us a little bit about the new ground and kind of what's going to happen there?
We're really pleased with Alresford. Where we're playing. We had our sort of first look at the place as a squad last week for the media day, and like squad photos and things were being done. And everyone loves the place. It's really, it's got a really homely feel to it. Really nice facilities there. So everyone's looking forward to it. The people there, like the people who run the club there, couldn't be more welcoming as well. They're really excited to have us there, which it's a good thing, because I think there's some women's clubs who feel a little bit like an inconvenience at some clubs, and that's not how it should be. They're Alresford, they're giving us everything they give to their men's team out there, which is how it should be.
Yeah, and the ground has a covered patio and other things for fans to kind of enjoy the match from, and just some of the pictures that Haley put up that look like a real nice place to be, and I don't know. I think it'll be exciting for the whole team to be able to be there and to play their home games, and it's nice that they're, I guess, making you feel at home instead of making you feel like you're just visiting. I guess that's a big difference. And I'm sure a lot of teams around the area and all through the league maybe don't have that good of a relationship with their home ground. And so I think that's great for you. And I don't know. And I guess Jodie, what did you make of the ground? How the pitch feel maybe compared to those hot AstroTurf pitches in the United States?
Yeah, I really liked it. Like Lee said, it just feels really homely. It's good facilities, and I could just picture good memories there this season. So I'm excited.
All right. You mentioned, that obviously the goals for the team are to challenge towards the top of the table. We talked a little bit about the other teams that may be, tough to get around. But Jodie, do you have kind of individual goals going into a season? You've obviously played on 3 different continents and multiple leagues. And as an attacking midfielder, do you kind of set out like, you want to create, or you want to, have this many assists or this many goals, or do you just kind of, what's your plan going into a season? And I guess that once again, this might be speaking to somebody who's looking to progress in their game. And I'm always interested in how people feel about, trying to improve individually and have a good season, but really it's about the team at the end of the day.
Yeah. I think my goal this season is to get back out there, get my name known, to score goals for the team, assists, and just do really well as a team. And just, I guess, just enjoy the game really, because I do want to in the future aspire to go to higher divisions, and so obviously I need to improve on certain things, and I just want to focus on that really this season.
All right. I hate to do this to you, but I do it to every player who's on. And I guess if today's match day or tomorrow's match day, but people won't hear this till Tuesday, but going into a match day, do you have a normal routine? Does it start the night before? Do you have a meal you have to eat, or what's your kind of, walk me through your morning or evening before the match and tell me kind of what that timeline looks like for you.
Okay. Well, I make sure I'm hydrated. So that night before, today I'm just drinking a lot of water, stretching, even do a bit of band work just to like, just keep my legs a bit more, like just moving my legs around and stuff like that. Then I'll wake up, maybe have like poached eggs and toast, have a cup of tea, stay hydrated again, bit of stretching, but also just getting into a good mental state because that's important. Just be fired up and just get ready for the game, really.
And then what time do you head down? Since the home matches are 20, 25 minutes away, everybody go together or you get there on your own, or how does that work?
I think at the moment with COVID, we're getting to the games ourselves. But Lee, didn't you last season go in like buses and stuff?
Yeah, the buses, the mini buses.
Yeah, for away games, did. For the start of this season, I think all away games, people have to travel in like bubbles, kind of thing, like no more than like 2 or 3 people to a car. But yeah, it might be a while before we can get back on a minibus again. I think there might be the possibility of like a bigger bus where people can socially distance on the bus. But I think there's lots of different possibilities being looked into at the moment. What's cost effective as well.
Sure.
So there's some strange things like for all the friendlies, whether it's home or away, you have to sort of split into additional changing areas and stuff as well. So there's still plenty to consider at the moment with COVID, which it's not ideal, but if it means we can get back playing again, we're happy to do whatever it takes.
And on that, I mean, last season when I talked with you and Smithy, it was very apparent to me that the team kind of building and the chemistry and the everybody being together pregame was such a big part of what you guys were doing. That are you worried at all about the fact that you can't do that as much this season, or at least now? Or have you guys kind of found other ways to make sure that everybody's on the same page and everybody's kind of mixing together, just personality wise and team chemistry wise?
I think the fact that there's such a large cluster of players from last season that are staying on for this season, I think that really helps. And I think that group who are staying on have really welcomed in the new players as well. And I think there's a real togetherness about the squad, even though we've not had the perfect environment to build that with all the restrictions. So I think that should be fine. And we're talking about all sorts of possibilities, like everyone jumps on a Zoom call the day before the game as well, just to go over a few things or something, and that way people are interacting there as well. But just getting back on the training pitch has really helped as well. We had like a little socially distanced barbecue a few weeks back before we could train, and that was quite fun, just sort of introducing everyone sort of in person again. So that was good. Yeah.
Are you tired of Zoom calls yet? And I'm not just asking that because we're on one now.
No, I think it's great. I think it's something that could have maybe been utilised in the past, but no one was really aware of it. So it's been good. We've had some coach education events via it as well. We've had a couple of sort of high-profile coaches that I can't name come on and talk to all our coaching staff and stuff. So people from higher leagues, and the players have had some as well. So that's all been really useful. I think it's a good tool that we're now aware of.
So just kind of breaking from this a little bit. I mean, you look at kind of what happened with your season last year in terms of they just called a halt to everything and everything stopped and there was no promotion. There was nothing. It was just done. I believe is the term null and void. Is that what happened?
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, just everything got wiped.
And so, you look at that compared to what's happened in, like almost like the Champions League or the Europa League or something like that. Like, would you hope that if something comes up again this season that you go to some sort of, even if it's changed, it's single elimination for the Champions League, there's no home and away. Would you want to see something like that come in if possible, just to kind of progress the season along and maybe change it up a little bit? Or would you, I guess would you just opt to play all the games later, or what would be your plan? I guess your contingency plan going forward if something were to happen again.
Yeah, I think safety is the main thing, but obviously, you want to see things through to completion, because it just sort of left a little bit of an empty feeling when you put a lot of work in for something, and then because even if we hadn't got promoted, at least we would have known how the league concluded, kind of thing, because we still had to play Southampton in a fixture, and who knows what those last few games of the league could have held. So I think if anything does happen again, it'd be good if there can be some sort of sporting conclusion to the season.
Yeah.
But hopefully, things will getting better and better going forward in terms of how things are dealt with and stuff. So yeah, I mean, even the Women's Super League, the top level, they weren't allowed to finish the season on the pitch. They decided the remaining games on a points per game average. So they had relegation and everything, which again, I don't know how I feel about that either. But they decided they went down that route, and our league decided to go down the just cancellation route.
Yeah. I mean, you saw leagues all over the place do relegation and get sued and have meetings with the Court of Arbitration for Sport and everything else, and that's all hopefully behind us now. But it's I mean, because there are implications for people who wind up getting relegated or promoted out of this, because even some of those teams you get promoted in other leagues, you don't even know if it's going to hold up or what's going to happen. So all kinds of things can change. But Jodie, all of that aside, I didn't ask you, and I'm hesitating to ask you.
God.
I'll go this way. So what players growing up did you really look to? And I guess, how did you find yourself playing in number 10 or attacking midfield or as a striker? How did you kind of go towards that position versus, the other positions that are available to you on the pitch? And so I guess growing up, who did you look up to? And do you look up to anybody different now or new now or the same person now or whatever? And then, how did you find yourself playing in the middle of the pitch in the attacking third?
It's a hard one, because when I was a kid, I never really actually had a player that I was like, I absolutely aspired to be like them. I think just when I was playing, I started as a centre back, and because when I started off with the boys, and I remember I would like slide tackle them, and like I was this girl like beating up a boy, and so the coach said to me, "You'd be a good centre mid," because I was quite good at like passing the ball off and then winning it type of thing.
Okay.
And then with age, I just started getting a bit more up the field, and then scoring more goals, and I absolutely loved being in that attacking third. So now that's my ideal position. But I've never actually really had a player that I aspire to be like, really.
I guess when you watch football now, are there certain players that you do watch and just enjoy watching more or seeing play more? Yeah,
well, in men's, Eden Hazard, he's my favourite player. And he's like an attacking. I love the way he dribbles with it and like goes forward. It's just love it.
Well, there's a new guy at Chelsea, and he's from America. You could say him too.
I know. He's brilliant, isn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Brilliant and injured at this point, but we need him healthy.
I know. He's really good.
Yeah. Anyway, and I would say, is that just because of your Chelsea connection? Is that how you found Eden Hazard, or was it just he just kind of jumped out to you at some point?
I think so, because when you're younger, you actually still train where the top men train. Mm. So you would travel. So I was like 10 years old, and I might see like a professional male footballer, and I'm like, oh my god. And so when you're in that environment, and then I started becoming like a big fan of Chelsea and that, and then so when you're watching games and going to the games, he just was a stand-up player for me, really.
Okay. Well, this is getting better than I thought it was going to go, so that's good. I feel like Haley's sabotaging me on purpose, bringing in players from that postcode, but that's okay. So I guess, Lee, as we kind of get towards the end of this, obviously you have goals and things like that. I would say, like, what's your feeling going into the season? Are you more happy to be back? Are you more happy with how the team's coming together and you feel like you're ready for the season, or do you feel like with just, a couple of weeks left to go that there's still kind of a lot of work to be done to get to where you guys want to be before the season officially starts?
I think we're pretty happy with where we are and how things have looked in training so far. Like, we don't expect it to be like at peak levels yet, but I think we're quite realistic about how we want things to progress through pre-season, and the games are sort of an extension of training in that respect. So we're looking forward to seeing and having more of an idea of where we are once we've got a few games under our belt as well. But like I say, we've been really happy with the sort of togetherness in the squad, the understanding on the pitch as well in the sessions we've had. So it's not exactly where we want it to be yet, but we know where it has the potential to go, and we're happy with how it's progressing towards that, I would say.
Okay. All right. And Jodie, I guess for you individually, how are you feeling fitness wise coming into I guess not the start of preseason, but the start of matches and things like that? Was it, I mean, obviously training and matches are there's a big difference between the two, but how are you feeling at this point in preseason?
Yeah, to be honest, I'm not actually as bad as I thought I would be. And I think it's because through lockdown, when there's nothing to do, my only thing every day was to go for a run, to do fitness. And so when we came into like pre-season training, I was actually, I was all right to be fair. But see how we go tomorrow.
I remember playing sports and always thinking like, oh, I'm in the best shape of my life. And then you show up in the first day and you're like, I hate everybody because I'm not ready for this. And I don't know, that's never changed. It doesn't matter what I do on my own. It never seems to work out right. But
yeah.
Coaches always seem to be able to do what you haven't done. They know. I don't know. Lee, what class do you guys go to, or what psychic ability do you guys have to punish players for not doing the one thing you're going to make them do when they get there?
I don't think we really we've not had to go down that route so far, which has been nice. Like I say, the players have all been really receptive to what we want to try and do this season. They've all been putting the work in off the pitch during lockdown as well. So, like I say, we're really happy with where we are at the moment.
All right. Well, I think, unless you guys have other things you want to discuss, I don't want to take up too much more of your time, but I just want to say thank you to both of you for doing this. And yeah, I mean, is there anything else you want to make sure we highlight before I let you guys go?
Not really at the moment. Just if anyone isn't following the club on social media, do that. Keep track of where we're going. We can't obviously have any crowds at the games at the moment, but hopefully that'll get lifted, further into the season. And if anyone's local, get down to Alresford once it's safe to do so.
Yeah. And I guess I will ask a couple questions on that. With no crowds being allowed, I mean, how much is that going to impact what happens on the pitch? I mean, the fact that we've heard everything that Ralph Hasenhüttl said to the men's team over the past couple of weeks when they were playing, it seemed like you could hear all of the instructions and hear who doesn't talk and who does talk. And I guess has that allowed you to do anything different when you're watching the games? You can see who's really organizing and communicating on the pitch a little bit more, or is it will you guys just treat it as normal and just move forward?
We'll treat it as normal. I think sort of last year we were getting crowds of like 100 for a game, which doesn't generate that much noise, but it's for the level, it's brilliant getting that many people in. And we had some games that had sort of bigger crowds. Like when we played Southampton away midweek at the start of last season, there were quite a few hundred people in there, and the players got a real buzz off of that because it was under the floodlights as well, and it was a really high tempo competitive game. So I think it definitely makes a difference even at our level. But yeah, I mean, pre-season friendlies are normally quite low attendance anyway. So I don't think it'll make too much of a difference in that respect for the friendly games. Because, even in previous seasons, there's been friendlies that have been played behind closed doors anyway. because like I say, at this time of season, it's more an extension of training and working on things rather than it being sort of ultra competitive, which once those games do start, that would be good to have people back in.
Yeah. I guess, Jodie, I just want to ask you one more thing before I let you guys go. I know I said I'll have you guys done by a certain time, so we'll make sure we do that. Have you been sent off in your career?
No, I haven't actually. I've had a few yellow cards, but I'm all right on the field.
Okay. Well, don't start this year then, because
yeah, I'll try not to.
Well, and I just want to say once again to thank you very much, and to anybody who's not following the team on the social medias, it's at SOTON Women's FC. I know you have a new website that, and as you said, people won't be allowed in the matches for the foreseeable future. So we don't know how long that's going to last, but that puts no pressure on Haley, but that puts a little bit more pressure on Haley to keep people connected with what's going on. And if people follow along on social media and on the website, you'll be able to keep up with the team quite well. You guys are always looking for sponsors for the team and for players individually. And if anybody is out there and you have a small business or you're interested in sponsoring a player and making sure they can, continue to play in the team and everything's kind of gets financially taken care of, you can get in contact with either Haley or the club secretary, and the links to all of those things are in the show notes. And it is a necessary part of playing at this level is having a sponsor and finding that. So I'm sure there are many players looking for one, and the club's always looking for one. So people can do that. And I just want to say thank you. Okay, well, I think that about wraps it up. I promised you guys I'd get you out of here, and we're only a couple minutes late, which is it's going well for me. I hope you guys have had a good time. The links to follow you guys on social media and stuff is all in the show notes. Once again, if you're interested in sponsoring anybody or part of the team or whatever, get in touch with the club. All the links are down there. And I know that the players and the coaches and everybody involved with the club would be super happy to have you on board. And once again, just thanks to you, Lee, and to Jodie. I appreciate it, both of you, your time, and best of luck tomorrow, which by the time people hear this will be several days ago. But best of luck then and going forward in the preseason and the regular season.
Oh, thanks for having us.
Yeah, thank you very much.
And that does it for this week's episode of the Southampton Delivery Podcast. Thank you so much for joining us. I hope you've enjoyed it. Special thanks this week goes out to Jodie Burchell and Lee Hurrell. Thank you so much for joining the show. Thank you for giving me your time. And congratulations on officially getting the season, or the preseason, the first friendlies, out of the way. Good luck going forward. I hope for your safety and your success. And I look forward to talking to you again in the future. And I'd also like to give thanks again to Haley Newman for making sure this happens. Thank you for always responding to my messages, for not ghosting me, and for helping me find so many great players and other people to talk to all around the club. As mentioned before, if you are interested in sponsoring the club or a player, please get in touch with the club secretary. All of the links are in the show notes. They would be very appreciative of that as they look to push once again for promotion. The show wouldn't be anything without the guests and the listeners that we have, so thank you to all of you. Special thanks to the partners of the show, including the Saints Archive, which you can find at saintsarchive.com. It's a great community of Saints fans discussing and reliving moments from the past that will make us smile, some that will make you cry, but mostly they're tears of joy. So if you haven't visited the Saints Archive, if you're not a member of the Facebook group, you're not following along on social media, be sure to do that. And to stay up to date with everything going on at Southampton right now, go ahead and follow the Southampton page at Southampton Page 1 on Instagram and at Southampton Page on Twitter. The logo for the show is done by Matt Beeling of the We Are Southampton page on Instagram. So for all your matchday edits, polls, competitions, and more, be sure to follow the We Are Southampton page on Instagram. All music comes courtesy of the Free Music Archive at freemusicarchive.org. The intro song is Epic Song by Boxcat Games, and the end of show credits that you're listening to right now is Aim is True by Poddington Bear. We will be back, of course, next week with something a little bit special. I hope you enjoyed. I look forward to presenting it to you. And if you want a little something extra, You can get involved in a private discussion, a private chat with all of the other patrons by visiting patreon.com/SFC delivery. You'll also get extra podcast episodes to join at the $5 per month level. Special thanks to all the patrons who help support the show. They make this thing all possible. But that does it for this week. I want to say thanks again for listening. I look forward to talking to you in the future. And until then, remember that together, we march on.